Credit cards are the single most useful tool in the financial world available to the everyday person. High credit limits are going to be one of the best indicators of financial health and well-being that you can have on your financial report card. And American Express is one of the top 2 credit card lenders that you can ever borrow from and have the deepest pockets to give you some of the highest limits that you're ever going to see on a credit card. So what is the number one ingredient that American Express is going to be looking for in an application to approve you for those high limits, giving you the spending power you need to get all of the value out of the points reward systems, as well as the credit building benefits of high credit limits? That's exactly what we're going to discuss in this video. So a little bit of context on myself for those of you who may be new. I am a career banker. I have over 13 years of retail banking experience at the time of this recording. I have experience in retail banking on the consumer side, small business side, as well as the private client side, or basically your emerging affluent side, dealing with individuals with 6 and 7 figure net worths. Everything from credit cards, deposit accounts. I have a mortgage license, Series 6 FINRA investment license, small business certification and credit side, as well as a life insurance license. So I've been all over financial services, actively still holding licenses, and actively have a corporate job in banking. So you're getting this information from somebody who's not only personally advancing their personal and small business finances, but somebody who's actually doing this on the other end, taking application, dealing with underwriting, dealing with underwriters for a career. So that having been said, when it comes to breaking this strategy down or breaking down this number one ingredient, we're going to reverse engineer in this video. Basically meaning we're going to go from American Express deciding to extend a credit card to you at a high limit, what they're looking at to make that determination of approving you in the first place and at what level they're going to approve you at, and bring it all the way back to you submitting your application and what you put on that application that triggers them to give you that high limit credit card. So when you think about what American Express is doing as a credit card lender, American Express is basically leasing out money, basically if used as intended on 30-day terms. So any of you who are in the small business space that have been dealing with the net 30 concept for vendors on the business side, it's basically the same thing with a credit card. You're typically going to be given a statement cycle which averages on pretty much at a 30-day time frame, and you're allowed spending capacity in that 30-day window. And American Express is going to be looking for that money to come back. American Express is going to make the bulk of their money from you using that card, as much of it as available, in order for them to be as profitable as possible and then get that money back in full. That is the ideal scenario, which is why you will hear from me on this channel constantly saying that credit cards are inherently a spending tool, not a debt tool, which is why it's so expensive to use credit cards as a debt tool. It's a punishment. It's intended to steer your behavior. Of course, 15, 20, 25, 30% interest rates are egregious. And of course, the fees that can come with overusing your limit, late payments, and etc. are egregious, not necessarily because banks are the devil. Yes, they're making money, they're profiting, sure. But at the end of the day, believe it or not, it's intended to steer you from doing so in the first place. The most rewarding credit cards could ever be, from points and miles and rewards and cashback, as well as credit building, is going to be using that card at its highest capacity that you can afford to use it, paying it back in full or as close to full as possible, as the credit report or credit metrics would teach us, 10% or less, basically within 10% of what you borrowed on that card or less, paying it down to zero. Hopefully that makes sense. So American Express is leasing out money. They're renting money out on net 30 terms essentially every single month. They want to extend as much credit to the most qualified borrowers as they possibly can, because where they're making their money is interchange fees. As many of us in the credit card space and those gaining financial acumen may understand already, believe it or not, credit card companies are not usually making the bulk of their money from interest and penalties. They're usually making it from interchange fees. So that basically means when you swipe that card for any given reason, they're getting a percentage on that purchase. And that entices them and also incentivizes them to design a product that will incentivize you to spend as much as possible. Comparable credit is a very important feature. It's congruency on your credit report when you're submitting your application. It's them being able to look in and say what other financial institutions have trusted you with what limits and how did you handle them. And when you have active, on-time, aged, high credit limits or whatever credit limits you have, that is when the existing application you submitted to the existing credit card lender, or in this case American Express, is going to say, okay, this person has been managing $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 limits on average, or highest limits are $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, whatever that number may be, for X amount of time with on-time payments responsibly. This is what they've shown they can handle. But believe it or not, this is still not the number one ingredient that is going to determine if you get a high limit or not. Now, again, go back to the beginning. They are looking to give you the highest limit they feel comfortable giving you based on your risk level so you can spend as much as you can. And believe it or not, credit score isn't going to quite determine that. Comparable credit limits with other institutions. The next thing that you may be thinking in your mind is congruency of overall information and whether or not you look legitimate on your application. If you're a little advanced, again, you may be thinking, all right, well, look, they're going to probably want to make sure that you're not a fraudster or that you're just legitimately who you say you are on your application. How congruent is your overall information? This is very important indeed, but it is not, again, going to determine whether or not you get a very high limit on that card. What is going to determine you getting a high limit on your credit cards when you apply for American Express and honestly any other credit card lender is going to be long-standing or at least consistently standing high, relatively high income. Income is going to be the most compensating factor on your credit card application. Income is going to be the biggest compensating factor and the biggest factor on you getting a high credit limit. Stick with me for a minute because I need to break down what this means and why it impacts the application the way it does. Let's reverse back to factors like comparable credit and some of the other metrics, again, that matter to American Express based on the product that they're putting out in the marketplace. So even when we look back on comparable credit, the reason comparable credit is not going to beat out income is because you showing that you previously were extended relatively high credit limits means nothing if you put an honest application in and that income that you put on that application is small or low relative to your DTI, relative to any other factors that they're gauging your income by, like your geography, etc. As I've said in other videos, if you make $50,000 in Alabama, Mississippi, parts of the Midwest, you make a pretty good income, especially if you don't have a lot of expenses. If you make $50,000 in the expensive parts of California, think San Francisco, if you make it in the epicenter of New York, as I've said before, you probably are sleeping under a bridge or a hobo. And I mean that in no disrespectful terms, but I'm basically just being honest. It all depends on where you are. So high income is very relative. So when we look at what American Express, again, is lending out or the product they're putting in the marketplace, they're leasing money out that they want used at various companies and entities that they can charge interchange fees to and make a profit on that spending. So your income is directly proportional if you're a low risk borrower, again, right? So that means your income is going to be directly proportional to your spending capacity. This is why American Express actually caters the most to older, higher net worth individuals who have more established, long-standing, high incomes, because they're going to typically have the propensity to spend a lot of money and afford the ability to do so. So income is massively important. And again, you can make more money, you can stay where you are with your income and lower your debt expenses reporting on your credit report. My personal experience with American Express, I've only started applying for credit cards with them a year ago at the time of this recording, and I've already attained over $60,000+ in limits across personal and business. And as I keep saying, the goal is to breach $100,000 in limits by the end of the calendar year, which I'm going to continue to document on this channel. If you're going into American Express brand new and looking to get into that ecosystem for the first time, let me know what this video has done to impacting your thought process on applying for American Express. Are you in shape for it? Are you a little skeptical now? Comment down below. As usual, I want you to support this channel so this channel can keep supporting you. Like, comment, subscribe, and share the content. 3 simple ways for you to support the growth of this channel so I can continue to bring you value and other people like you who need access to this information. Other than that, to all my pioneers, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. I want every single one of you to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.